Alberta is vast, gently rolling hills and flat plains, left when the last ice age retreated about 10,000 years ago. Over the centuries, grasses and trees covered the land, and rivers cut huge valleys through it. Running water would have washed away more of the fine soil, but the forests and grasses protected it. By the late 1800s, settlers and farmers had begun to arrive. In forested areas, trees were stripped off, piled and burned. Often the land was cleared right to the edge of river breaks and ravines. The land was broken. The roots picked. The land plowed and disked, left bare, ready for crops, ready for erosion. Still, in those early days, farming was small scale, so it didn't have a significant impact on the land. Now, farming is on a much larger scale. Landowners have found it necessary to be more careful about the soil. Today's huge farms and equipment have the potential to do great harm. Bigger equipment means bigger fields, larger expanses of summer fallow, left bare to the wind and water, and regular shaped fields to interfere with natural drainage patterns. Towns and cities sprang up as more people poured into the newly opened land. That meant roads and railways were needed. Often they blocked natural water movement, and the ditches weren't able to handle the flow. It all contributed to erosion. Erosion is simply wind or water wearing away the surface of the land. It may happen anywhere, and is often caused or influenced by man. When erosion does happen, it means trouble for the land and for the people who depend on the land. For the farmer, it means channels or gullies in his field he'll have to work around. He'll get poorer crops too, and that means less money. At first, this will be hardly noticeable. Little rills across his field that he can easily cultivate over, and they'll seem to disappear. But that's only the beginning. There are three types of water erosion: sheet, rill, and gully. Sheet erosion is just what it sounds like: a thick sheet of water moving over a saturated field, taking fine soil particles with it. Sheet erosion is the most difficult to see, but may be the most destructive. Rill erosion is more easily picked out. Water running off a field forms little trickles here and there that run together to make bigger trickles. They join others, and as the streams gain power and speed, they carve channels called rills in the field. Scientists use Rill meters like this to measure the amount of soil lost. As the wires drop into the rill, they outline its shape at the top of the meter. With this measurement and the length of the rill, researchers can accurately determine how many tons of topsoil have been washed away. For instance, this rill represents a soil loss of about 200 tons per acre. Gullies are even more easily noticed than rills. Jagged gouges in the earth where the rushing water of spring runoff or heavy rains has washed tons of soil away into rivers or creeks. When the water finally drops the soil particles, it's called deposition. Deposition happens in stages, and the soil gets sorted in the process. It works this way. The heaviest parts of the soil, coarse sand, pebbles, and rocks, get left in the field. Lighter particles, fine sand and coarse silt, get dropped further downstream, sometimes in a low spot in a field, but more often in a roadside ditch or even the mouth of a creek. The very fine, nutrient-rich particles, silt, clay, and organic matter, get carried much further, hundreds of miles downriver to a freshwater delta or even the ocean. On the way, this clay and silt can pollute the creek or river carrying it, silting up dams and ruining fisheries. There are two causes of water erosion: rain and spring runoff. Usually rain doesn't do much harm unless it's a heavy downpour. Then the raindrops explode on the ground and splash into the air, carrying soil particles with them. When the rain is too heavy for the soil to absorb, it runs off, carrying the topsoil with it. Spring runoff can be just as serious. In the Peace River area, for example, spring runoff causes more than 80% of the water erosion. Because the ground under the snow is partially frozen, it can't absorb the meltwater more than a few inches deep. The rest runs off, and as it goes, takes soil with it. The amount of erosion depends upon a combination of factors. Not only how steep the slope is, but how long it is. Combined, they determine how much time the water has to gather speed and power. The other main factor is vegetative cover, protection for the soil. Cultivated fields like summer fallow are hardest hit by erosion. The soil has nothing to anchor it and help slow down the runoff. The better the cover, stubble or grass, the better the protection against erosion.